Doggone it. Okay, I think we got it, guys. I think we got it. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. My name's Ron Tyler. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody to our program tonight. We want to welcome everybody here because that's exactly it. We are welcoming everybody here because this is a place to be. Folks, it is now 10 minutes before 7 p.m. That is 18:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Want to welcome everybody here to the Area Command. Thank you all for being here, by the way. We appreciate it so much. Folks, as we have said before, we have a lot to talk about. It says here it's Thursday. It's actually Friday. I don't know why YouTube likes to screw up and tell us something that's not true, for whatever reason. I put here that Debby goes north Thursday, August 9th, 2024. And still, YouTube wants to screw it up, saying Japan and California still being pummeled by California and Japan are still being pummeled, and Tropical Storm Debby Thursday, August 8th. It's not Thursday, August 8th. It's Friday, August 9th. Hopefully, with any luck, we'll get some kind of change here shortly if YouTube ever gets its act together. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about here, guys. We still have a lot to talk about. Now, Debby is still causing problems. Okay, I want to play this short video for you to tell you a little bit about what is going on with Debby.
Forecast as we head into the weekend, and we're looking at the storm and all the heat we have here.
Yeah, a lot of heat here. That storm, it's amazing how many days in a row we've been talking about Debby, and still in the last 24 hours, storm reports of high water, even tornadoes stretch all the way through the mid-Atlantic, and really devastating flooding ongoing right now in portions of northern Pennsylvania. You can see the center of the storm is pushing through kind of this northwestern New York area, and really heavy rainfall, flooding threats, and even tornado threat pushes into New York City. But meanwhile, in our area, we've got this front moving through North Georgia. This is going to usher in a little change in the humidity levels outside by the weekend. With it right on top of us, it's bringing a few extra clouds this afternoon. See a couple of little hints of green near Macon. Stray shower possible in central Georgia this evening. But for most of us, it's just that heat and humidity that is dominating your Friday afternoon. In fact, right now in Atlanta, it's 95, feels like 101. That humidity, you notice the dew point still in the upper 60s. It feels sticky outside, but we should see those numbers coming down a little bit for tomorrow and Sunday. 95 right now in Athens, 93 Marietta, 93 in Peachtree City. So this evening we'll keep things hot but mostly dry. Temperatures remaining in the 90s through 6 o'clock tonight, then in the upper 80s as we approach sunset. Crash, I've got...
Okay, that's what's going on in Georgia, guys. As she said early on, that storm has gone north. This storm has gone north, guys. This whole Debby thing is long gone. However, it's gone north. Okay? We showed this to you before. Let me show you again.
And really devastating flooding ongoing.
Okay, devastating flooding up in the northern part of the United States. New York, for example. We told you this was going to happen. This storm took off, came inland in southeastern North Carolina. It went straight up the coast along what? The Eastern Continental Divide. That storm came up through the Eastern Carolinas, and then it went straight north. Virginia, for example. Then into New York, into Connecticut, over into Rhode Island, Boston area. It's now further north. We fully expect this to continue up and through Ottawa and Quebec. Okay? Some of this storm is coming up over to Halifax, Nova Scotia area. Okay, you can see it here. Richard is going to see storm clouds from Debby in Nova Scotia now. Okay? It's your turn, Richard. It's your turn. You and Canadian Patriot 1 are going to see parts of this storm again. Okay? It's going to happen. This time, it's thunderstorms. It's not wind, it's thunderstorms. Yes, there may be some wind in here, but it's not anything near tropical storm or even hurricane strength. This is 30 to 35 miles per hour. 30 to 35 miles per hour. You guys are going to be inundated with rain as well. You see those green storm areas there? Those are cloud banks. Those are cloud banks. The outer ring of the storm, the outer clouds of Debby, are way up towards Nova Scotia, Canada. You can see that here. But while the main part of the storm is here in the United States, going up in through northern New York, all the way through Boston area, all the way into Ottawa, Canada, this is what's going to happen. It's going to continue probably for the next 3 or 4 days. Canada's going to see this next. Okay? It's unreal. We knew it was going to happen. We absolutely knew it was going to happen. This time, you guys got it. Okay? It's going to be devastating flooding all over the place. We had devastating flooding last night. We had flood watches until approximately 10, 11 p.m. last night. Flood watches 10 and 11 p.m. last night. It was quite a deal. Quite a deal. We're seeing it still flooding now. Floodwaters are decreasing, however. Floodwaters are decreasing. Okay? That's a good thing. The rivers and streams here around where I live have gone down about 4 feet. That was good. Okay? We had 4.5 inches of rain in like 12 hours time. 4.5 inches of rain in just under 12 hours. That was incredible. That's a year's worth of rain here in 1 day. A year's worth of water here in this area in 1 day. Yes, the flooding is going to continue. Debby says tornadoes. Yes, over in northern New York State, going up into Canada, you may see some tornadoes. Now, see those thunderstorms here on this map we're showing you? Those storm clouds, those orange, red areas are thunderstorms. Those thunderstorms coming from the tropical storm itself may still have tornadoes in them. They flung off tornadoes when it was a tropical storm, and it may still do that. So you guys also need to be on the lookout for possibility of tornadoes. We need to be on tornado watch, not a warning, but a tornado warning watch. Now, if in fact a tornado is seen on radar or seen on the ground, you will get a notification through your radio or your television, your local news station. Keep your televisions tuned to a local news station so you get the latest information. Keep your radios tuned to a weather station locally, a news weather station locally. That way you'll get the latest up-to-the-minute information about the storm. And it could be bad at times. But all throughout this weekend, today, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and possibly into Monday, Debby's still going to have a hook on this weather here. Be advised of it. Keep your head on a swivel, guys. Keep your head on a swivel. That's what Don has been saying. That's what several of us have been saying for a long time. Keep your head on a swivel. Now we have more information than that. Okay? Debby came a-calling, didn't she? She came into the Bend area, the Great Bend area of Florida, and she kept on going. She slowed down. Hurricanes don't normally slow down like Debby did. Debby crawled. That's why Debby caused so much damage with high water. Debby dumped a bunch of water. Okay? Debby kept churning out into the Atlantic, bringing more water with it. Then she kept going north as she's done. Okay? You need to keep an eye on her. One thing I want to tell you right now is this. Debby's still up doing Washington, D.C. Debbie's doing Washington, D.C. Not Debbie does Dallas. Debbie's doing Washington, D.C. and New York as we speak. Again, you see those clouds, those high clouds and the low clouds going into Canada. This is what you're going to have to deal with at least through Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday. Then it should be gone out back into the Atlantic Ocean. Now we have another depression here out in the Atlantic Ocean here, almost in the Caribbean. Okay? This is a current disturbance. There is a 10-day cyclone formation chance. A formation chance. Okay? Now we're talking probably a less than a 40% chance that this storm will turn into something. Less than a 40% chance of this storm turning into something, at least until midweek next week. Okay? This storm is going north-northwest right now, and it's on a heading to go into Florida at some point in time, if it continues on the same path. Right now, this storm is down in the Lesser Antilles. The Lesser Antilles. Yes, there are 25 to 30 miles per hour winds associated with this storm, and it's just bringing rain, only rain. Okay? Nothing big wind-wise or anything, but rain. Okay? But as we move into midweek next week, we will take a closer look at this storm right now. Right now, it's not a named storm. Okay? We have 4 named storms already. That means we're probably only going to have 8 more. Let's hope we only have 8 more named storms. Okay? This is just one of them. The other 2 storms, named storms, are way out in the eastern Pacific Ocean, away from the shoreline of North America or Mexico. They're way out there. They're going to the northwest still, and they're going to die out. Those storms are going to die out. But this is the next storm we have to worry about, and we may not know much about it until midweek next week. Okay? So right now we're free and clear. That doesn't mean we keep our heads going full bore into something else. Keep your heads on a swivel, guys. Keep your heads on a swivel. Now, I want to show you some earthquakes. These are the things that are going on right now. I want to go down into the Tonga area. And this is important. Okay, again, this is very important to understand what exactly is going on. Let me bring this up for you. Okay? Let's zoom in here to the Tonga area. Okay? This is a 5.0 earthquake. This is 182 kilometers northeast of Niafu, Tonga. It's nowhere near land. It is a large 5.0 earthquake, however. No one felt this quake. No one's going to feel this quake. This quake is far enough away from any island in Tonga or Samoa where it's not going to have any harm at all. Nobody felt this. Nobody's going to feel it. Okay? Again, this is a 5.0 earthquake, 182 kilometers northeast of Niafu, Tonga. Let's go further south. This is in the southern Fiji region. This is a 5.6 earthquake. This is a very large 5.6 earthquake. Okay? Notice where it's at. There are 2 different trough areas. 2 different earthquake faults here. One is coming out of Tonga, headed towards New Zealand. This one's coming out of Fiji. This is a large, very large 5.6 earthquake. It's also a very deep quake, 593 kilometers deep, which means this earthquake itself, a 5.6, is going to propagate a much larger earthquake. This earthquake is going to propagate a mid-range 6, a 6.5, 6.6 earthquake. This 5.6 earthquake is going to propagate a very strong 6.5, 6.6 earthquake sometime in the next 3 to 10 days. Yes, this earthquake could remain in this region. This 6.5, 6.6 earthquake could remain in this region. However, my bets are this. Okay, let's back this out. I want to show you this. That 6.6, 6.5 earthquake may head over here to the Loyalty Islands here. It may head over here into the Vanuatu Islands up here. It may further go west over here into the Solomon Islands right here. Possibly. Possibly. It also could go over here into Papua New Guinea. We don't know yet. We don't know yet. But sometime in the next 3 days, we ought to have some kind of good idea where this earthquake is going to go. Again, this is a very large earthquake down here in the south of Fiji. A 5.6 earthquake. It's going to generate a 6.5, 6.6 very strong earthquake. Again, it could go further west over to the Solomon Islands or Papua New Guinea. But it also could do something else. It could go over here into South America. Now, I hate to say this. Look at South America. It has absolutely no earthquakes. There are 26 earthquakes here in South America. 26 earthquakes here in South America. They range from over in south central Chile on up into northern Chile right here, where a great majority of the earthquakes are. Also going up here into Peru, going up in Ecuador, and going up here into Colombia. USBS is just that, nothing but BS. When they don't show us earthquakes, and we know for a fact there are earthquakes, they're doing less of service to the people. They're not serving the people at all. Okay? But again, that very strong earthquake, okay, that very strong 6.5, 6.6 earthquake could come over here to Chile and southern Chile and Argentina region. And then it will move north through South America along the coast near the Andes Mountains. Okay? That's what's going to happen. But it's not the only earthquake that we have here in the Fiji area. Let me show you another one here. Okay? This is a 4.6 earthquake. A moderate 4.6. This is also 516 kilometers deep. 516 kilometers deep. This also is going to be a large earthquake. Okay, it's going to propagate a 5.5, 5.6 earthquake somewhere in this same region I just got through explaining to you, or it may go over here to South America. We don't know. But it will make its way known probably within the next 3 to 4 days. We should know that. It's going to propagate a large earthquake. Now, with that said, over here in the Kermadec Islands, this earthquake hit here early this morning at about 8:23 a.m. this morning Eastern Time. This is a 6.0 earthquake. It came out as a 6.3 and USBS downgraded to a 5.9. This is not a 5.9 earthquake. I saw the details on this earthquake. This is at least a 6.3 earthquake, regardless of what the stupid agency says. Okay? This is a very strong earthquake happening here in the Kermadec Islands. For those of you that are new to this program, the Kermadec Islands north of New Zealand are unoccupied islands except for migratory birds. It's a bird sanctuary. So this 6.3 earthquake rattled the nerves of the birds. The only time scientists get anywhere near the Kermadec Islands is at high tide. High tide. That's the only time scientists can get anywhere near these islands. Why? Because there's volcanic rock just beneath the surface. Volcanic rock just beneath the surface of the waves. If scientists were to try to get in here during low tide, their boats would be destroyed by the currents. Okay? But this area is a bird sanctuary. Many, many islands here in the Kermadec Islands. Now, something else you need to know about. USBS is still not telling us the truth about New Zealand either. There are about 18 earthquakes here in New Zealand. 18 earthquakes here in New Zealand. We have 5 earthquakes here near Gisborne, Australia, over here in the northeastern side of the North Island here. 5 earthquakes. These earthquakes, most are 3.0 to 3.9. However, there is one 4.3 moderate earthquake here near Gisborne, Australia, or Gisborne, New Zealand. Okay? There's a small swarm of earthquakes here. A small swarm of earthquakes. Now, with that said, there's more earthquakes over here in the Bay of Plenty. There's more earthquakes here in the Bay of Plenty. Over here, on land, over here, just south of the Bay of Plenty, there's also 3 or 4 earthquakes here. Most notable is the one I'm going to talk about right now. Okay? Now, you see right here in the center of the North Island is a volcano. This is Topovolcano. Topovolcano. This is a super volcano. Just like Yellowstone, it's a super volcano. Now, Topovolcano is rocking. Topovolcano is rocking. Tremors and minor earthquakes here around Topovolcano. Except for one. Except for one. There is an earthquake right here today. There is an earthquake right here. This is a 4.5 earthquake right here. It's just east of Topovolcano. Now, there are some people that live here. This is a moderate earthquake. What we said about moderate earthquakes. Moderate earthquakes cause moderate damage. Moderate earthquakes cause moderate damage. Okay? So these people had photos and wall hangings falling off the walls today. Their knickknacks and their dishes rattled in the cupboards and may have slid out of their cupboards onto the floor. Needless to say, moderate damage only. Moderate damage only. I want to show you something else here. Okay? I want to show you something else along with this volcano here. This is important to realize what's going on. What is out here? What is this island out here in the middle of Topovolcano? This is the summit of the volcano. This is the summit of the volcano. Every volcano has a summit. Okay? In this case, the summit of the volcano is an island at Topo Lake. Okay? All around this lake, there are people living here. There may be some people living here over here on the island here at Topo Lake. Why do I say that? What is right here? What do you think this is right here? It's an airport. This is an airport, ladies and gentlemen. You see over here to the northeast here is a terminal. That is a terminal. This is an airport here on the summit of the volcano. Interesting, huh? Light planes come in here. Nothing big, but light planes come in here. There are people living here. There are some people living here. Okay? I just want to show you that because most of the time nobody even realizes what Topo Lake is or anything else about it. All around the lake, all around this lake, there are people living here. It's a huge city here. Look at this. Huge population. There's probably 20,000 people living here around Topo Lake. Okay? About 20,000 people living around Topo Lake here. Okay? Why wouldn't they? It's a place to play. It's a place to take their boats out and play. It's a place for the people to let their hair down. But it is a super volcano. It is a super volcano, and scientists have been warning what's going on here. But all the way around this lake, people are living here. if and when this volcano goes, what's going to happen? If and when this volcano goes, there's going to be a catastrophic earthquake and a catastrophic volcanic eruption here. Okay? Most people don't even know this. Most people don't even realize it. There's only been a handful of us that have even discussed this possibility. Topo Lake is just rocking right now. Just minor earthquakes and some tremors. They have had some larger earthquakes here at Topo Volcano. Okay, they've had moderate earthquakes here as well. And just east of there, they had a moderate quake today. Most of the earthquakes today are either over here near Auckland here, okay, or down here over by Christchurch on the South Island right here. We've had about 3 earthquakes here, one over here on the northeast side of the South Island here, and also further south over here in what they call South Park. South Park. There's been 1 earthquake here and 1 earthquake further north here on the South Island here. These are just minor earthquakes. Minor earthquakes. Now, that's New Zealand. I don't think we've seen any earthquakes today over here in Australia. Yesterday there were 2 earthquakes here. One on the southwest and one over on the southeast. Okay? However, over here in Eastern Java, Indonesia. Eastern Java, Indonesia. And folks, there are more earthquakes here than they're showing. Again, they are lying to the public. Misidentifying information is lying to the public. Lying by omission is a lie. Okay? This is in Eastern Java here. Southern Indonesia. This is a large 5.0 earthquake near Rutang, Indonesia. Rutang, Indonesia. A 5.0 earthquake. This earthquake is 88 kilometers deep. A fairly shallow earthquake. Over here in Papua, Indonesia. This is in Abapuro, Indonesia. This is a 4.5 moderate earthquake. This is over along the coastline. Over along the coastline here. Notice this here. There are some small communities along the coast and out here in the forested areas. The people here in Papua, Indonesia and Papua New Guinea are very poor. Some people live in mud huts. Some people live with buildings that are nothing more than cardboard shacks held together with wood. Okay? They continue to get hit with earthquakes here. This is a moderate 4.5 earthquake, 35 kilometers deep here. 35 kilometers deep. Let's go further north here. Okay? This is Tobelo, Indonesia. Quite frequently, at least once a week, we have an earthquake here in Tobelo, Indonesia. This is a mid-range 4, a 4.6 moderate quake. This is also 38 kilometers deep. 38 kilometers deep. Now we go over into northeastern Mindanao, Philippines. Northeastern Mindanao, Philippines. USGS is only showing 1 earthquake here. Only 1 earthquake. This, folks, is another mid-range 4.5 earthquake. A mid-range 4.5 earthquake off the coast of northeastern Mindanao, Philippines. They just got through having a 7.2 earthquake here just a couple days ago. That place is still rocking. Regardless of what USGS is showing you here, there's more than just 1 4.5 earthquake. There's several. This is also 60 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow quake. Okay? It's offshore, so it's not doing damage here to the people that live here on the northeastern shores of Mindanao, Philippines. Mindanao, Philippines is the largest island in the Philippines. The largest island in the Philippines. Now, we don't have any earthquakes to show over here in Taiwan. fact of the matter is, over here in southern Japan, we are still seeing earthquakes rock here. The earthquakes rocking here are aftershocks of a great big large earthquake here. A 7.1 major earthquake here. A 7.1 earthquake rocked the southern part of Japan here yesterday morning, causing some damage, nothing very valuable with infrastructure. It shut down the trains naturally because the trains don't want to be running when they're shaking to pieces. However, there's no major damage at all here. It could have been. This was a major earthquake yesterday, but they're not showing any earthquakes here at all today. But there are 3 earthquakes, 3.5, 3.9, and a 4.5 here. Okay, that's normal. That's normal. I fully expected to see a 5.0 to 5.5 earthquake hit here off the coast of southern Japan, and it might still happen. But what everybody needs to realize with this earthquake, the country of Japan, the government of Japan has issued a very serious earthquake watch. A very serious earthquake watch for a mega thrust earthquake. For another mega thrust earthquake. Why is that important? There are 12 atomic reactors here. There are 12 atomic reactors down here in southern Japan that are bringing power to the country of Japan here. Yesterday's earthquake did nothing to damage those reactors or the control panels. Everything's good right now. However, they are under a watch for a possible mega thrust earthquake here. What you need to know, we are also expecting an earthquake, a mega thrust earthquake in the Cascadia subduction zone in northwestern Washington and Oregon. Okay? The same kind of thing that the people in Japan are looking to experience now down here. Okay? They're watching. They're watching everything going on. The scientists at the Japan Meteorological Office is watching for a 7.0 to a 9.0 earthquake here. Yesterday I told everybody that they might be watching for as big as a 10.0. But scientists today have said that they are watching for at least a 7.0 to a 9.0. That's still a very dangerous earthquake. That still will be a very dangerous earthquake. We are going to watch this area very closely for the next week. The people in Japan have been told to stand by for a possible major earthquake, a very large, very strong, major earthquake in the next 10 days here in Japan by midweek next week. So we're watching for that as well. Now they're not showing much of anything else going on. Yes, there is an earthquake over here near Tokyo. This is a large 5.0 earthquake. A very large 5.0 earthquake. This is near Isahara, Japan. Isahara, Japan, near Tokyo here. A large earthquake. A large earthquake can cause damage. There is no damage reported with this earthquake. There were some minor injuries reported with this earthquake. It's amazing. They can have a 7.1, 7.7 earthquake in southern Japan, and they only had a few people with cuts and scrapes and basically a braised skin. Okay, that's all that happened. That's all that happened yesterday. But this is a 5.0 earthquake over here near Tokyo, Japan today. This is also 30 kilometers deep, just offshore of Japan here. This is a 4.8 earthquake here, a moderate 4.8 near Tateyama, Japan. This is 76 kilometers deep. 76 kilometers deep. They should be showing more activity, but they're not. They're not. Over in northern India, Naya Bazar, India, we have a 4.5 earthquake here. These are in the Himalaya, or not Himalaya, yeah, the Himalaya Mountains here. Nepal area, the Himalaya Mountains here. This is a 4.5 earthquake, 44 kilometers deep. We go further east here. Still near in India area, Pando, India, another 3.6 small earthquake here, 10 kilometers deep here. Again, this is in the mountain area of the Himalaya Mountains here. Okay? Today, nothing over here in Tajikistan, Afghanistan, or Uzbekistan here. It's surprising that we don't have anything listed here. And I believe the USGS is negligent again, because I believe there are earthquakes here. Over here in southern Iran, this is a 4.2 moderate earthquake here. Right here is a brand new earthquake that just happened. This is a 4.3 earthquake here in north central Iran. A 4.3 earthquake here. This is 10 kilometers deep. Now over here in the border region of Turkey and Syria, they're not showing any earthquakes. However, there are 36 earthquakes here in the Turkey-Syria border region. USGS is ignoring that fact. Completely ignoring that fact. They're not also showing any of the handful of earthquakes in northern Turkey, and also in southern Turkey. They're ignoring those earthquakes as well. Over in western Turkey over here, there are plenty of earthquakes here. There's 6 or 7 earthquakes over here in western Turkey. And there's almost that many off the coast of western Turkey. Why? Because these islands belong to Greece. These are called the Volcanic Islands here, belonging to Greece. We have about 3 or 4 earthquakes over here. These are just minor earthquakes over here in the Volcanic Islands. Over here by Crete here. Crete belongs to Greece as well. There are a couple earthquakes over here in Crete. 2.5, 3.5 earthquakes. Now, over here also, we have Crete here. Just west of Crete here, we have a 4.8 earthquake here. A 4.8 earthquake east of Crete. This is important. This is a moderate earthquake. Also, where is it at? It's on the same earthquake fault that came out of Turkey and Syria here, the Anatolian Fault. The Anatolian Fault. So it's no surprise to anybody, or should not be a surprise to anybody, to see this kind of earthquake here east of Crete. It's on that same fault, that same huge fault line, the Anatolian Fault. There are earthquakes here in Greece that they're not telling us about. Earthquakes all over here in Greece, northern, southern Greece here. Earthquakes here. Earthquakes up here in Romania. Croatia here. Southern Italy and Sicily here. More earthquakes over here in central Italy. More earthquakes up here to the northeast here. Over here to the northwest in Italy. Also over here into the Alps Mountains here. Both in Italy and over here in Switzerland as well. Minor earthquakes. Minor earthquakes. There's 2 earthquakes here in the French-Spain border region here. 2 earthquakes here. These are just minor earthquakes. 2.5 and 2.7 earthquakes here in the border region of Spain and France. Further south, minor earthquakes and tremors over here in southern Spain. Northern Portugal, we have some minor earthquakes up here. Also over here south of Portugal, in the Azores Islands here. The Azores Islands, we have a 2.5 and a 2.6 earthquake here. Again, the agency is denying they happen. You have to go to the European map to see it. Europeans are telling us about it, but the U.S. agency non-existent, asleep at the wheel. Asleep at the wheel. Also going out here into the center of the Atlantic Ocean here. Just east of the mid-Atlantic fault here, we have two earthquakes here. They're just minor earthquakes. 2.3 and 2.4 earthquakes over here, just south of the mid-Atlantic fault over here on what they call the Azores Fault. The Azores Fault. Why is that? We have islands out here. We have islands out here. These islands are typically volcanic. And we believe that these islands are having earthquakes because of volcanism. From that deep magma plume that's over in the southern Pacific that is supplying these volcanoes with magma. They may not be erupting, but they're sure trying. They're sure trying to do that. Now, before I go over into the United States, really briefly like, just like they've done in the past, USGS continues to shut this program down as to showing the earthquake map here. But they're not going to keep me down because I refuse to let them do that. Hey, we're back. Again, these are the Azores Islands here. These are just east of the Mid-Atlantic Fault here. And it appears that they may have frozen this map again here. Yes, they have. I'm going to bring it back here. Hold on a second. I'm always able to bring this back. They can't keep me down. They can slow me down, but they can't keep me down. Hey, we're back. We're back. Okay, let's go back here. Let's go back here. They're not showing these earthquakes in the Mid-Atlantic Fault area at all. However, there are some. There's also one other earthquake up here in Iceland I want to show you. Then we'll go over to Greenland and back to the United States here. Okay? I want to show you this because it's important to understand what's going on here in Iceland. This, folks, is called the Reykjanes Peninsula. The Reykjanes Peninsula. We've talked a lot about the Reykjanes Peninsula in past months since about November 6th last year when there was a major volcanic eruption here. A major volcanic eruption just outside Grindavik, Iceland. We still are having earthquakes here. We're still having earthquakes. Why? Because magma is still coming over here to Iceland. Magma is still coming over here to Iceland. Now, this is Grindavik here. This is the town of Grindavik. It used to be a town of about 3,600 people. Most of those people have left. Most of those people have accepted a buyout from the government that bought their homes and gave them money to go and buy a new home elsewhere. That's what happened here in Grindavik. Yes, they've had volcanic eruptions, and that's why the government offered them money. But there's more earthquakes here as well. Again, we had another 2.6 earthquake right about here. South and west of Grindavik. South and west of Grindavik. This was a 2.6 minor earthquake here. A 2.6 minor earthquake right here. It has nothing to do with Grindavik. I don't think it has anything to do with anything but magma beneath the surface. Magma beneath the surface. Magma is coming up here just outside of Grindavik right here. This is a place called now I can't remember what this place is called. There just happens to be a geothermal plant here. Geothermal plant. where men have drilled into the upper magma chambers of the volcano here to obtain steam to power turbines to generate electricity and provide hot water to the people of Iceland here. Right under this geothermal plant, and also a geothermal hot tub spa here called the Greenwood. There is a spa here, okay? Right underneath it is a huge magma chamber. A huge magma chamber. This magma chamber happens to be growing. The magma chamber is happening to be growing. Why? Because there's magma that is being supplied by that very same magma plume down in the farthest reaches of the South Pacific. That magma plume is providing magma to all the volcanoes around the world, and that's what's going on here. The magma is continuing to infiltrate this magma channel here, this great big huge magma supply channel here. This is what's happened before when we've had earthquakes and volcanoes that erupt over here. It's doing it again. This area is called Svartsengi. The Svartsengi power plant and the Blue Lagoon spa here. But the magma underneath the Svartsengi power plant and the spa is infilling. That is why the scientists at the University of Iceland and also at the meteorological office here in Iceland believe we're going to have another volcanic eruption. Now, about 3 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago, because the Svartsengi power plant and the Blue Lagoon spa was rising. Okay, it was rising because the magma channel underneath, or the magma reservoir underneath the Svartsengi, was filling up. It's doing it again. At one point a few months ago, they thought it might erupt, and it still could. It still could. But right now, scientists are believing that the magma chamber down there is going to fill up, but there are other underground fault zones and other underground magma channels out here. They believe that's what's going to happen here, is one of these magma channels out here is going to carry the magma underneath the ground here and erupt just outside of northwest of Grindavik. Up here northwest of Grindavik. That's what they believe is going to happen now. They're just waiting. They thought about 2 weeks ago it might erupt, and they said, well, it's going to erupt sometime within the next 24 hours to 3 weeks. It's almost been 3 weeks now. The scientists at the University of Iceland and also the meteorological office here in Iceland believe it still can happen. So we're watching again. We're watching again here near Grindavik for another volcanic eruption here. Also earlier today, over in Greenland, over here in South Greenland, we had another earthquake. This was not a 5.1 earthquake like happened up in the northeastern part of Greenland about a week ago. Way up here in northeastern Greenland, we had a 5.1 earthquake. Now we have another 4.5 down here. A 4.5 moderate earthquake here, 10 kilometers deep, 6 miles deep. Okay? We're still seeing activity here. Why? All these islands have been volcanic. All these islands have been volcanic. Is it possible that Greenland could also have a volcanic eruption? Yes, it's possible. It's very possible. We have to wait to see. But we're having earthquakes there nonetheless. Nonetheless. Let's talk about something else. Let's go over here to northeastern Wyoming. Northeastern Wyoming. We had a 3.1 earthquake here today. A 3.1 earthquake. This is northeast of Salt Lake City. northeast of Salt Lake City, northeast of Park City, Utah. It's over in northeastern Wyoming. It's nowhere near Yellowstone. Let me blow this map up a little bit and show you where West Yellowstone is, so you have a good idea of what is not going to happen. What is not going to happen here. Right up here. And you can see it here. See, this is Yellowstone Lake here. You see this lake has red fault zones around it? That's Yellowstone Lake. Just south and west of there is Yellowstone. Okay? This earthquake is nowhere near Yellowstone. This is in Wyoming. This happens occasionally. This is a 3.1 small earthquake. A 3.1 small earthquake. It's also 7 kilometers deep. About 3.5 miles deep. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Now, if you want to compare apples and apples, guess where Salt Lake City is? Salt Lake City is way down here to the south, over here on the southern side of this lake here. The Great Salt Lake. Okay? There's where the volcano, or this is where that earthquake hit in northeastern Wyoming. Just to give you a good idea of what's going on here. Now, Harry Fodder's asking a good question here. There are no dumb questions here. Harry Fodder's asking, are any of these earthquakes related to destroying the deep underground military bases? No. They're absolutely not that way. We've had that happen, though. In the past 5.5 years that I've been on the air, we've seen 3 different times where there have been deep underground military bases being destroyed. Okay? Usually when that happens, we see some symmetry. Symmetry between the earthquakes. They are close together, number one. Number two, they're lined up in a grid-type pattern. We're not seeing that at all. All the earthquakes that we've been talking about lately are all individual earthquakes. Every one of these have been individual earthquakes. They have nothing to do with deep underground military bases at all. Great question. Don Patoka said, should Homie be nervous? No. No, I don't think so. Even that earthquake over here in northeastern Wyoming, it almost has no bearing on what's going on in Salt Lake City, except it's in the Rocky Mountains. Seismic energy travels down the Rocky Mountain chain here, all the way down to New Mexico, all the way through Utah, Colorado, into Mexico. New Mexico, I should say, not Mexico. New Mexico. Okay? Then what happens? What happens? The North American craton comes over here to Texas. Comes over here to Texas right here. Then it starts going up here into Oklahoma, southern Oklahoma. Then it almost cuts a straight path through southern Oklahoma all the way over here to the Pneumatic Fault. To the northern part of the Pneumatic Fault right here. Then it drops further southeast over here into Georgia. And you can see the mountains out here. You can see the Great Smoky Mountains out here. Okay? Then that same earthquake fault comes up here through the Smoky Mountains, comes up here through the middle of South and North Carolina, the mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains, going up here through the Appalachian Mountains, all the way up here into Canada. Okay? It's called the Continental Divide. The Continental Divide. Now, I think there's something else I need to show you. So if you just bear with me for a second. I'm going to try to find another map here. That way I can fully explain to you what's going on here. I will be able to further explain what's going on here in the United States. Yes, we're seeing earthquakes. we're seeing earthquakes over here in Oklahoma. These earthquakes are a result of fracking operations, oil and gas fracking operations causing these quakes. No big deal. No big deal at all. The largest earthquake here was in Dibble, Oklahoma. It was, in fact, a 3.2 small earthquake. 3.2 small earthquake. Only 2.6 kilometers deep. Just over 1 mile deep. But we're having earthquakes because of fracking operations. How about this one here? Hermleigh, Texas again. Go figure. Hermleigh, Texas, where we had a mid-range 5 here last week. It's still rocking and rolling. Here we have a 2.1 earthquake in Hermleigh, Texas today. Oil and gas fracking operations. Further southwest over here to southwestern Texas, fracking operations again. Swarms of earthquakes. Swarms of earthquakes. Okay, let's put this map to sleep. Let's put this map to sleep. I want to find another map here for you. You guys will just bear with me for just a second. I know it's there. On my other computer, I would have got right next to it because it was already in my bag of tricks here in my broadcast software. But right now it's not here, so I'm going after it. I'm going after it right now. I just love this stuff, guys. I really do. I get a charge out of it. I've been doing this for a very long time, by the way. For those of you that know me, know that I've done this a long time. A great long time. And I get a kick out of it. I get a real charge out of it. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. You can see where these earthquakes are in Oklahoma. You can see where that earthquake is in Hermleigh, Texas. Northern Texas. You can see those other earthquakes over in southwestern Texas, can't you? Let's blow this other map up so you can see it. Let's enlarge it here for you. Look at this. The North American craton here. This is the continental United States. You see this here is the continental United States. Over here on the left-hand side, part of the North American craton. This is the Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains coming out of northern Alaska, northern Canada here, dropping all the way through Canada, all the way over here into Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, all the way down here into southern Texas, southwestern Texas. Then it cuts north. Then it cuts north up here into Oklahoma. It goes over here to Louisiana, Arkansas area. It drops down here just at the apex of the center part of the Pneumatic Fault. Then it goes north over here in Georgia, making its way up the Continental Divide here. It's the North American craton. What is this violet colored area? This violet colored area here is what they call the deformed craton. The deformed craton. Okay? Over here on the East Coast, we have the deformed craton here. We have basically the beaches of North America, Canada, and the United States, and also what do we have here on the interior of the countries? The Continental Divide, mountain ridges, the Appalachians. We have the Blue Ridge Mountains. We have the Smoky Mountains to the south. The Craton comes over here into Oklahoma. Okay? I've driven this area. I've been here many, many times now. Over into Texas. I've driven through northern Texas to get over to Oklahoma. Been here, done that. I've driven through the North American Craton here to the south. Okay? I've been in New Mexico. I've been in Texas. I've been in Colorado. I've been in Utah. I've been in Wyoming and Idaho and Montana. The deformed Craton. This is also part of the Rocky Mountains. The western part of the Rocky Mountains. You've all seen it. In Utah, they call it the Wasatch Fault. How about that? The Wasatch Fault. We even have the mountains going down into New Mexico. Wow. Wow. Over here on the left-hand side in the green, okay? This is still part of the continental margin. The North American continental margin. Again, it's like the beach area of North America. The beach area of North America. It includes Baja California, northern Mexico, California, all of California, all of Oregon, and all of Washington, D.C., Washington State here. Washington State going up into British Columbia, Canada. Okay? The northern Craton area here. Now I'm going to keep this here so we have this here to look at in the future. I'm going to keep it on my broadcast software here. That way we'll always know where it is and we won't have any problem finding it in the future. I want to make sure we can see it and use it. Does anybody have any questions about anything we said so far today? Does anybody have any questions for me? Ernie Martinez says, God bless you, Ron, and everyone. Thank you so much. He says, EMA is a great channel. I appreciate that. He says he comes here for truth. I hope that's why you all come here, for truth. Now, I've talked about earthquakes a great deal. We talked about Debby doing Washington. No, Debby, Tropical Storm Debby did not do Dallas. However, it did the East Coast and Florida. Okay? Debby did the East Coast and Florida. How about that? Not a movie here. A play on words. A play on words. Sage Pup says, you're doing a wonderful job, Ron. Thank you. Thank you, Sage Pup. I appreciate that so much as well. Anyway, I have a few more things I want to discuss with you tonight. Now, we've been here nearly an hour, probably just over an hour. I've got my clock just up over my office window here. I keep an eye on it so I know how long I've been on the air. In the past few weeks, we've continued keeping an eye on what happened with President Trump over in Butler, Pennsylvania a few weeks ago. We know the whole story, almost the whole story, with Matthew Crooks, the gunman who attempted to shoot President Trump and end his life. He missed. He was lucky he missed. As President Trump and his doctors said, by the grace of God. President Trump has recovered, fortunately. Fortunately, he's recovered. But the Democrat Party, including Miss Earthquake Fault herself, Camelback, continues to hammer and tell lies about President Trump. Lies that are coming to haunt her. The man that she chose, or should I say the Democrat Party chose for her as a running mate for the vice president, has been a liar himself. He lied about his military service, saying he had gone over into the Gulf of the Middle East. He lied about it. He did not even get out of the United States. He said he was a command master chief or master sergeant. Command master sergeant, which is one of the highest enlisted ranks in the military. He lied about that. He was never a command master sergeant at all. He lied about everything. It wouldn't surprise me that the Democrat Party pulls him out of the running and puts in someone else. It also would not surprise me because I've heard rumblings within the Democrat Party during the last 2 days that they will replace Camelback sometime within the next 2 weeks. The Democrat convention starts on the 16th, just 6 days from now. And there are rumors that the Democrat Party is not satisfied with Camelback or Timmy, the line military guy. Timmy, the line military guy. Lies, lies, and more lies. Okay? It's my belief. It's my belief. And I think it's a lot of people's belief that what happened to President Trump was a political assassination attempt. A political assassination attempt from deep within the deep state. Deep within the deep state. It may have taken place here in the United States, but I have a feeling it was deep within the Democrat Communist Party, possibly even going over into Europe. That's my opinion. Why do I say that? Because global politics have figured into what's happening here in the United States. There are people in the global community that hate Donald Trump because they can't get away with anything when Donald Trump's in power. I believe what happened to President Trump 4 weeks ago was a result of political power rangers. Political power rangers with not just Biden, but Obama and many other people. Okay? Sage Pup says, did you say Camelback? No, I said Camelback. Camelback. That's what my nickname is for her. I'm not going to use her real name. I'm just not going to do it. I call her Camelback. Anyway, does anybody have any questions for me? There's a lot of political wrangling going on. It's not going to stop. The FBI is still in charge of the investigation into the Trump shooting. The FBI has been lying through their teeth. Director Wray of the FBI should be resigning. He should not still be the head of the department. He's a lying sack of crap. They have put a man in charge of the Secret Service, Ronald Roy Jr. He's also lied to Congress. He's also lied to Congress, and inasmuch he's guilty of felonies. Lying to Congress is a felony. Oh, we'll get back with you. We'll get you that information and get back to you. Why not tell us the truth? Why not give us the information? He knew the truth. He knew that truth. But he's lying through his teeth. Trying to protect Biden, trying to protect Obama, and all the other deep staters here in the U.S. It's sad. It's sad. Arnold Smith says his check-in number is 82. Wow. That's wild. That's wild. Anybody have any questions for me? I know I've been talking just over an hour, but I thought we had quite a bit to share with you. Now, I still have a lot of preparedness work to do. Getting everybody ready for what's going to happen, whether it's political fire or whether it's natural and man-made disasters. Does anybody have any questions for me? Does anyone have any questions for me in regards to almost anything? We have 82 thumbs up. Please, folks, before you leave today, make sure you give us a thumbs up. also don't just sit here and leave here after 10 or 15 minutes. If you do that, you're not going to understand what we really have to say. You're not staying here for the program, not finding out any real information if you stay here 5 or 10, 15 minutes. Stay here for the good share of the program or the entire program. Now, I've been watching numbers. I've been watching a lot of numbers here. The average length of time people are here is about 28 minutes. 28 minutes. During the program, the average length of time people stay here is 12. 12. If you're here for 12 minutes, you're not getting anything out of this program. You might as well not even be here. Stay here for the program. We have a lot of good information for you. If you're only here for a few minutes, you're not going to get any of that. Your time here will be wasted. I want to talk about emergency preparedness. I'm just waiting for any questions from any of you. Last night before I left here, I told you that I would be willing to answer any questions that any of you might have. Ray Spur says the cackling hyena. Oh yeah, I know that feeling. I know that feeling well. Every time I hear another story from the Democrat Party, the Democrat Communist Party, I cackle louder than anything. And my wife says, Ron, can't you be quiet? She knows what I'm laughing at. She knows what I'm laughing at. Arnold Smith says it has a very liberal mindset. Yeah. Isn't that the truth? A very liberal mindset. But I have a lot of things to talk about here if you want me to. Just ask me some questions here. I have files upon files upon files. I've done talks at preparedness fairs. I've been doing talks when I've been out at disaster drills. I have been asked to go to different communities in different parts of the country in the U.S. and talk about preparedness. They usually give me a topic or two to talk about. I talk for 2 to 3 hours. They pay me like $50 an hour. $50 an hour. I do these programs for you. I don't charge anything. But all I ask is you to help support us in what we're doing. I've given all of you a way to support us by joining as a member of our YouTube EMA family. We have 3 levels, $1.99, $2.99, and $3.99. That's one way you can support us here on the channel. The other way is through your super chats that you guys have so kindly been doing as of late. We appreciate that a lot. We also received a couple donations here in our post office box this week. We appreciate that as well. I really do. John and Laura from Oregon sent us a card yesterday in the mail. We got it yesterday. Mary Hasselman sent us a donation also in the letter that I showed you yesterday. We appreciate that very much. We also have 2 PayPal locations here you can send us donations to. Please do that. Our post office box is in the top of the program description just below this video today. Our email address is also there. Our PayPal addresses are also there, as well as our Venmo location. Yes, we rediscovered our Venmo address and we got it back. PayPal and Venmo are the same company. And Venmo took me down for almost 3 months. I'm back. So I have PayPal and Venmo that you can send us donations to. Diane Kelman, who's a member on our EMA family here, sent us a $5 super chat. Diane, thank you so much. We appreciate that so much. God bless you for that. We appreciate your support more than you even know. Like I said, it helps keep the lights on here. It helps keep the lights on. That's a very good thing. Okay? Anyway, we have a lot of things to talk about. Emergency preparedness is on the top of the list. How about that? Emergency preparedness, go figure. Like I said, I've given preparedness talks all over the country. I've done talks at preparedness fairs. I've been at more preparedness fairs than I want to count. It's crazy. I've been at preparedness fairs more times than I want to even think about. It's insane. It's insane, guys. I've gotten paid to travel around the country, either doing disaster drills with the government, state governments, or doing preparedness talks while there, or the governments or the cities pay me to go visit them and talk about preparedness. And I love doing that. I absolutely love doing that. I've talked about active shooters. I've talked about bugging out or sheltering in place for any kind of emergency. We talked about that here. We frequently talk about Cascadia. Mondays and or Thursdays we've typically talked about Cascadia. That great big major earthquake that's going to happen off the coast of Washington and Oregon. The mega thrust earthquake. The 9.0, 10.0 mega thrust earthquake. We talked about radio communications. Radio communications. 4 years ago, we started talking about the coronavirus before YouTube shut me down. Heaven forbid I opened my mouth and talked about it. They didn't want to hear it. The Democrat Party did not want to hear it. Now, everything that I said or has been said about the coronavirus has come true. Everything that's ever been said about the coronavirus has come true. Their little jab cost people their lives. Caused people to have myocardial infarctions, heart attacks. And yet, the Biden administration refused to believe that. We talked about it. I've talked about disaster drills all over the United States, including over in Washington State, where we did our first Cascadia drill in 2012, I believe it was. We did a disaster drill over in Little Rock, Arkansas. The first disaster drill regarding the New Madrid Fault. Since then, we've had one other disaster drill a couple years ago on the New Madrid Fault. There's also been one other subsequent earthquake drill over in Spokane, Washington. I've been part of that remotely this time. We've talked about earthquake preparedness quite frequently. We've talked about earthquake preparedness in every possible way. I have no problem approaching that again. We talked about earthquakes of all kinds. All kinds of earthquakes on all kinds of earthquake faults. I talked about earthquake videos and I've shown you earthquake videos. I've talked about emergency planning. I've talked about emergency planning and why it's so important to plan. Emergency planning, go figure. One of the most basic things about preparedness that people refuse to understand. Sweet Polly Purebred, one of our very, very closest friends here on EMA, said she was unsubscribed and had to wait her 5-minute jail time to resubscribe. Isn't that interesting? YouTube has no problem unsubscribing anybody. They unsubscribed 400 people here 2 weeks ago. 400 people in one weekend because they could. Now we have 5,670 subscribers. I would love that to get to 6,000 again sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Please help me with that. Please share this program far and wide. Tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, your social media contacts, and even the people you work with about our channel. Share it. Ask people to come here and watch it. We have a lot of information for all of you. All of you. Unreal. Sweet Polly Pure Red says, I'd find a way to get back in Ron and Carol. That's great. That's great. I appreciate that. Renee Steffi says she gets unsubscribed frequently. Don Patoka, one of our mods, also gets unsubscribed frequently. He and I have talked about it in long conversations on the phone. He is so frustrated with YouTube, it's not funny. I am too. Canadian Patriot 1 Dave is here. And the possibility of a tsunami from it. Yes. That's a good possibility that the Cascadia megathrust earthquake will cause a tsunami. Fact. We've talked about EMPs. EMPs. Either caused by coronal mass ejections from the sun carrying highly charged particles to the earth through the earth's atmosphere, which can come here and derail not just communications, but derail all electronics on Earth and take us back into the 18th century, into the 1800s. It would happen very quickly. It would happen very, very quickly because our computers in our cars are not adept at handling that much electricity going through their coils, going through their wires, melting everything, and as a result, anybody that has a computer in their car or has an EV vehicle would no longer have a vehicle to ride. I have a feeling if an EMP hit one of those great big huge lithium batteries, the car would explode. That's what I fear would happen with any of those electronic vehicles. You can't trust them. You can't trust them. We've talked about EMPs. We've also talked about electrical failures to the electrical grid here in the United States and all over the world. That would also cause us to go back into the 1800s. No electricity, no farm equipment, no nothing. No nothing. We talked about FEMA death camps. We've talked significantly about FEMA death camps before. I've talked about fires significantly. House fires, wildfires of all kinds all over the world. We talked about it. We've talked about how to prevent wildfires. We've talked about how to prevent house fires. And if we have a fire, how to try to control it or get out. Get out and letting the fire department handle the house fire. Trying to save your lives. If you can't save that or stop that fire within about 2 minutes, get out. If you can't stop the fire yourself within about 2 minutes, get out. Because you're not going to be able to do it. Get your kids, get your animals, and get out. It's not worth sacrificing your lives. Get out. On the other side, we talked about heavy rains and flooding. Even during the last week, we talked about heavy rains and flooding. We talked about hurricanes. Don't walk or drive across a flooded roadway. That is a recipe for death. Don't drive or walk across a flooded roadway. I've talked about this and talked about it and talked about it, and yet I continue to see people driving across flooded roadways even today. It's amazing what I've seen today. We talked about setting goals for preparedness. We talked significantly about writing an emergency plan. We talked significantly about writing an emergency plan and what goes into writing an emergency plan. If you have a question, send your question as an email. I'll get it and send you the information right away. We talked about writing an emergency plan. Why is that necessary? Because, folks, if you have an emergency plan ready, written down, that you can go back through and edit it or follow it during or before or during an emergency, you're going to be very well off. Because you're not going to forget anything when the crap hits the fan. Writing an emergency preparedness plan will save your life and the lives of your family. Okay? My buddy Don Patoka. Don, I love you, brother. Don continues to put up information for you here in the chat. Situations can be dangerous, daunting, and demanding, especially when what-if scenarios are not preconsidered and ignored. Prior proactive, practiced proper preparation of the possible. If you didn't hear that, go back and listen to it after we get off the air. It's important. When preparing, think of strategy and apply logistics. Think of strategy and apply logistics. When I was taking classes on emergency preparedness, strategy and logistics was a big deal. A very big deal. When you are part of an emergency situation, an emergency scenario, logistics is a huge deal. And you have to have a strategy to going after any kind of emergency. You must have a strategy. Otherwise, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. Goals are very, very important. Don Patoka says master plans and checklists are vital. The other day, I took my emergency preparedness plan off the shelf and showed you 111 pages of it. 111 pages. 111 pages for my family. It's just my wife and I and my kid, our dog kids here. But our plan here is not just for us here. It's to save the lives of our children elsewhere as well. Saving the lives of our children elsewhere. We have a plan. And we are working that plan even today. Do it. Write your own emergency preparedness plan. Think about any kind of scenario that might happen. And when you're doing that, you're on the right track. Because your mind will come up with other ideas. Write those ideas down and come up with a scenario for that particular idea. Write it down. Write it all down. Diane Kellner says, I would have a map with fault lines of your state and a few surrounding states as well. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea if you're in a very highly seismically active area. Think about that. That's a great idea. Don Patoka says, if might have to bail out over Vietnam in 1968, you damn well better have a plan. Think about that. If you're out in a plane, whether it's a B-52 bomber, whether it is a command and control aircraft, or a transportation aircraft, or a fighter, if you're going to bail out of a plane in 1968 over Vietnam, you better have a plan. Or you're screwed. Or you are screwed. Okay? Mary M says, putting it bluntly, absolutely. Absolutely. Sweet Polly Purebred says she's on a third floor owning a kitty ladder. A kitty ladder, that's a great idea. Consider that. Or building your own ladder to get out of your home. It's a good idea. It's a great idea. Or learning to fashion a sheet and dropping it out of the window so you can get out of your house going down your sheet. Using your sheet as a brake for bailing out of your house. Guess what? It works. It works. Now, we've talked a lot about preparedness. I spent a great deal of time during the past months talking about hurricane preparedness and what you should and shouldn't do. I've talked about having a preparedness checklist. A preparedness checklist. You need to have a preparedness checklist, guys and gals. You need a preparedness checklist like you don't need a headache. You need to keep protecting yourself from headaches, and you need a preparedness checklist to keep from having headaches when you're in the middle of a extremely dangerous situation. Your checklist will bail you out of trouble. We talked about sheltering in place and why that might be possible. If you know you can't bug out, you need to shelter in place. You need to figure out why and how you're going to do it. Sheltering in place. We may come back and talk about that one day soon. Now, solar flares. We talked about a great deal about solar flares. Every time I turn around, I'm watching Mark Wage's program. Sometimes I'm having a harder and harder time watching his program live because YouTube won't let me watch him live. YouTube won't let me watch Mark Pires live either. But I do go back and watch those videos. They are important. Mark Pires keeps me sane. Mark Wages gives me the information to hand to you about solar flares and what it's going to do to the earth. We talked about that earlier on this evening. We're going to talk about solar flares a great deal in the short near future. You need to know about solar flares, what it does. We talked about emergency preparedness events. If you ever find an emergency preparedness fair put on by a local church or an LDS church, go there. Go to those preparedness fairs and learn. Go to those preparedness fairs with a notebook to take notes. Go to those preparedness fairs and take notes, and yes, you might even see me at one of those preparedness fairs. I show up there frequently. Okay? Diane Cummins says, yes, Ron said $10 bills. Do not ever have anything bigger than a $10 bill. Why? Because if there's no electricity, guess what? The cashier at your local 7-Eleven store or your local grocery store is not going to have change for much more than a $10 bill. So if you give them a $20 bill, what's going to happen? They may take it and say, sorry, we can't change it. We can't change it. We don't have enough money. Make sure you have nothing bigger than a $20 or $10 bill. Nothing bigger than a $10 bill. Make sure you have fives. Make sure you have ones. Make sure you have change. That's important. That's very, very important. Sweet Polly Purebred said, Wages World stated, watching the cause of EMA. A great channel. I appreciate Mark Wages saying that. I really appreciate Mark Wages saying that. Mark Wages is a great man. Mark Wages has a great deal on the ball when it comes to solar activity. He's a saint. He's a saint. There are other people that I also watch. But Mark Wages is a saint, literally. Okay. So we talked about solar flares. We talked about emergency preparedness fairs. We've talked about survival. We're going to talk a lot about survival in the coming weeks and months. We're going to talk about surviving power outages. Surviving power outages. Over the past few years, I've been buying solar batteries. I've been buying solar batteries, and I've been buying solar panels so I can stick a solar panel outside and keep charging my battery to keep my house running, to keep my computers up, to keep our refrigerator running here, to keep our freezer running here, to keep lights on in our house. We have batteries here. We have a lot of batteries here. We have AA's, we got C's, we got D's, and what else do we have? 9-volt batteries to change out the smoke detectors every 6 months. I change those batteries in the smoke detectors and the carbon monoxide detectors every 6 months, whether the battery needs it or not. That way those detectors will operate when things get bad. Do that. Do that. Don Patoka says, Sir Mark of Wages World is awesome. Yes, Sir Mark of Wages World is awesome. Sir Don of Patoka is awesome as well. Sir Don of Patoka is also awesome. Diane Kelman says she's never heard of solar batteries. Maybe this next week I will get out my solar batteries and show you how easy it is to plug in those solar panels and charge those suckers. It's very easy. If you keep those solar batteries charged, when a power outage happens, guess what? You'll be one step closer to making sure your house is powered. Okay? Now, I don't have big, expensive backup batteries like you see it at for Patriots. I don't have $2,500 to buy those great big packages that you see at for Patriots. Yes, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. Or I would love it even more if someone had the money to send me one. Then I'd get it. But I can't afford that. The batteries I have here are less expensive. But at least there's something. At least there's something. Something to keep my power going here inside of a power outage. And yes, we have power outages all the time. Renee Steffi says you can purchase power packs to charge your phones. Absolutely. You can get a $25 power pack for your phone from For Patriots. I've got one. I thought I had it right here. Maybe it's in my bedroom. Yes, it's in my bedroom. My wife and I both have our backup battery for our cell phones in the bedroom. They're great. Mine comes from For Patriots. I got my wife's through a different company. So we talked about power outages and surviving power outages. We talked about terrorism. All the time we talked about terrorism. We've been doing this for a very long time. The richest YouTube channels here. Thank you very much for being here. We talked about volcanoes. We're going to continue talking about volcanoes. Okay? There's a reason. We've talked about weapons of mass destruction. WMDs. Weapons of mass destruction. We've also talked about weapons for protection. Weapons for protection. I have my weapon on my side 9 times out of 10 every day. It's always on my side. Or if it's not right on my side, it's right next to me. I don't go much of anywhere without my weapon of preference. You should also have something to protect yourself. Whether it's a nug with nug seeds or some other kind of protection to protect yourself and your family. You need to consider it. Don Patoka says he knows nothing about any weapons. Yeah, you do, you bonehead turkey. Don, I love you, brother. Now, we've also talked about weather disasters. We've just been following what was a hurricane, then a tropical storm, causing major damage up and down the east coast of the United States. Guess what? We have 3.5 months worth of storms still coming here. 3.5 months where we can have hurricanes here in the southeastern United States going up into the coastal areas of the east coast of the U.S. We've already seen 4 named storms. I showed you that storm way down in the Lesser Antilles. By mid next week, we should know whether that is going to become a named storm as well and where it's going to go. We still have 8 more storms that could have names. We're going to follow that. We're going to follow it. We will keep you up to the knowledge level that you should be when it comes to these storms. Okay? I'm not going to let anybody down. I'm not going to let them down. Sweet Polly Purebred is asking a question about 6-volt batteries. Is there a 6-volt battery that's better than another? Not really. Ever-ready batteries, or I don't even remember the other battery that's out there, but if you have a 6-volt battery, I think it's kind of one versus another kind of thing. Okay, I don't know which one's better. I honestly don't. I have 2 6-volt batteries here that can power a lantern. I only have 2 6-volt batteries to power a lantern. I only have 1 lantern that those 6-volt batteries would go to. But I have solar lanterns here. One sitting here on my windowsill in my office. Another one is over in our bedroom, next to my wife's side of the bed. That way she has that. I think it's very important that we have battery operated appliances like that, lanterns that can provide a great deal of light. These are solar lanterns. They're great. Okay? Don Batoga says if you have smaller solar and rechargeable batteries, you are better served. I agree. Now, we have talked a great deal about Yellowstone in the past, and we will continue talking about Yellowstone off and on. Again, I'm going to say this, and I mean it very sincerely. I love Mary Greeley. Mary Greeley is an expert when it comes to Yellowstone. But I'm also going to tell you this. Yellowstone is nowhere near going to erupt. Yellowstone is nowhere near going to erupt. I monitor Yellowstone like bread and butter. I monitor Yellowstone every day. Yellowstone is nowhere near ready to erupt at all. Yes, we saw a geyser eruption at Yellowstone last week. That was a geyser eruption. One of the reasons Yellowstone is not ready to erupt as a volcano is because of the geysers. Because of the geysers in Yellowstone. If it wasn't for the geysers, yes, there could be an eruption at any time. But the geysers let off steam literally. The geysers let off steam literally. Okay? Now, a few months ago, I talked about 10 states that are most at risk for major disasters. I think within the next couple days, or a couple weeks, not days, but a couple weeks, we will talk more about that as well. 10 states that are most at risk for disasters. I want everybody to realize what's going on. You need to do that. I've also talked in the past, and that's not been lately, but I have talked about the 10 Commandments of Emergencies. 10 Commandments of Emergencies, and we will talk about this again. Also, when I was in Salt Lake City, I was part of a team that put together the Disaster Safety Museum. The Disaster Safety Museum. We did good. Over in Harriman, Utah, just southeast of Salt Lake, there's going to be a Disaster Safety Museum there. Okay? And as a result of my work and the work of several other people that I know and have worked with there, guess what? Guess what? There's also going to be a secondary emergency operations center. There will be a secondary emergency operations center there. Secondary only because they have a great emergency operations center in downtown Salt Lake City. But what if? What if we have a major earthquake? Or we have a major dam break and people from South Salt Lake Valley can't get into Salt Lake City? Those people will be able to go out to Harriman, to the secondary EOC, the Emergency Operations Center. And we will be able to have people there to service the greater Salt Lake and greater Utah area. Because of the Disaster Recovery Center there. Okay? It's going to be a great place. The Disaster Safety Museum. We're going to be able to have first responders there, police and firefighters. They'll also be able to drill there. And having that EOC and a disaster safety museum, the public will be better served. The public will be able to be better served and have another chance to live another day and get more and more information for disasters in Salt Lake City. I think I believe every community deserves to have a disaster safety center. Think about it. If your community doesn't have that, or they're not planning for it, go over to your city council or town council and talk to them about it. They may poo-poo you and boo you into next week, but don't let them get away with it. Do not let them get away with it. Okay? Anyway, so we talked about the Disaster Safety Museum in past programs. We talked about being ready and not being scared. We talked about a black swan event likely. Having a black swan event likely. Okay? We'll talk about that more as well. We talked about budget-friendly ways to prepare. Budget-friendly ways to prepare, and we're going to continue to talk about that as well. We talked about bug-out bags for women. Bug-out bags for men and children. Everybody needs to have a bug-out bag. Everybody needs not just have a bug-out bag, but have a 72-hour kit. Every family must have an emergency preparedness kit. Every family must have an emergency preparedness kit. We talked about that in the past as well. We've talked about building a culture of preparedness. Building a culture of preparedness. That's what this program is about. Building a culture of preparedness. Okay? Building a culture of preparedness. That's what Emergency Management Associates is. Okay? We talked about changes that have after effects. We've talked about changes that have their own aftershocks, after effects, that can take you back into the 18th century. Okay? We talked about church emergency preparedness tips, preparedness fairs. Churches are a great way to put together an emergency preparedness plan for your entire congregation. You don't have to be a Latter-day Saint or Catholic or Lutheran or Baptist to have a preparedness fair at your church. If you have questions about a preparedness fair, ask me. Ask me. If I can't come to your location, I can get here on the internet via a Skype call, via Zoom call, or whatever, but I can help your church put on an emergency preparedness fair. I can do that. I've done it in the past. I'm helping a friend of mine right now in southern Utah, over near St. George, do that for his church. Okay? We talked about desert outings and how to survive being out in the desert. We talked about civil unrest. We're going to talk more frequently about civil unrest, especially of what we have going on right now. Okay? We talked about disaster drill preparation. Disaster drill preparation. I may have to talk about that more. I've talked about that with some of my colleagues, and we probably ought to talk about that more because you also should be preparing a disaster drill for your family and your community. Disaster drills are very important. I've done, I don't know, hundreds of disaster drills over the past 20 years. Literally. There are all kinds of disaster scenarios as well. You need to realize what's going on in your own life, in your own area, in your own region, in your own country. Okay? Anything can happen at any time. Anything can happen at any time, ladies and gentlemen. I guarantee you that. You need to be ready. You need to be ready. Now, I put together a program with a colleague of mine in Utah when I was there, and we had an emergency response book. Let me start over. We compiled together an emergency response guidebook, an emergency response training guidebook. Okay, that can be training families. That can be training law enforcement. That can be training any kind of first responder. We've done that before as well. We talked about emergency unemployment preparedness. Emergency unemployment preparedness. There are many people who are unemployed today in our families and in our communities, but even they can put together preparedness items so they will have somewhat of an idea what they need to do in case of an emergency and some way to survive what is going on in their own area, in their own home. We talked about fishing 101, how to make a fishing pole, how to even get fishing gear. Whether you make it or you get it, some things going fishing are very inexpensive. And some people will be able to share things that they might have with you. I've had people share their fishing knowledges and fishing experience with me so many times in the past, it's not funny. Now, I've also put together a program, 5 guidelines for creating effective disaster preparedness. 5 guidelines for creating effective disaster preparedness. I've also had a program for first responders. Flaws in your active shooter response. Flaws in your active shooter response. If you are a first responder, if you know first responders, and you want to get together on a Zoom call, a Skype call, or whatever you want to do, and talk about active shooter responses, let me know. I'll be happy to help you and or your fellow first responders. Active shooters is a real experience. We've seen a lot of those in the past years, unfortunately. I also put together a food survival checklist. A food survival checklist. I have also talked about government confiscation of food. Government confiscation of food. And the Democrat communists here have talked about it a lot in the last year. Government confiscation of food. I've talked about how to build an emergency shelter. How to build an emergency shelter. We talked about how to clean untreated water. We talked a lot about how to clean unclean water. Even during this past year, we talked about that before. How to prepare for water contamination. Water contamination is very real. It is very real. Now, there was someone that wanted me over in Malmö, Sweden, which is over on the southeastern coast of Sweden, wanted to talk about what if war comes to Sweden. What if war comes to Sweden? And guess what? The Swedish military and the United States military have gotten together in northern Sweden to repel a possible Russian invasion in northern Sweden and Norway. So hopefully that's helped. Hopefully they may call me again and want to talk to me again. No problem. No problem. I speak fluent Swedish even today. I speak fluent Swedish even today. Diane Kelman says, Ron, are they for sale? No. No. I'll help you. I'll talk to you. I'll tell you what you need to do, but this stuff isn't for sale. Now, I may have to write a book. Maybe I need to write a book. That would be for sale. Then this would be for sale. But right now, I put together these items to help everybody. Like I said, I've done preparedness talks. I've been to preparedness fairs. I've done just about everything I can do to help people. I've done these disaster drills I've talked about in 39 different states. How about that? traveled around 39 different states. Yes, I had crews. There was about 10 or 12 people. There were about 10 or 12 people I often worked with on every disaster drill. We came throughout the United States. One of my best buddies, who was one of my best pals when we were cops in Denver. I'd been a cop in San Diego for a long time. I think it was 1985, 1986, whatever it was. I left San Diego in April 2000. I moved to Denver. Who would I find in Denver? A guy who would later be one of my best friends. His first name is Dave. I've known Dave for a long, long time now. A long, long time. Since 2000. 24 years I've known Dave. Guess what? Not only was Dave one of my field training officers in Denver, in order to be able to be a cop anywhere, you have to know the area. Guess what? Dave was my training officer for Denver. He showed me around Denver, showed me the hot spots, showed me the places to be leery of, and showed me where people needed help. I learned from Dave. After I left Dave working as a cop, guess what? He and I ended up working together on disaster drills. Dave is now an emergency manager just like me. We do the same things. We share the same information. Dave is a very, very close friend of mine in Denver. We share everything, literally. He and I have talked about improving effectiveness of emergency management. We've come up with a plan to effectively improve emergency management, and that may turn into a book. It's like 895 pages so far. Improving the effectiveness of emergency management. I've talked about a master survival checklist. A master survival checklist, and I've shared some of that with you even during the past year. Okay? Now, if you take any FEMA courses, one of the FEMA courses is called NIMS. NIMS. It's the National Emergency Management Program. NIMS. I've been part of it. I've taught it. Okay? There's a PDF on NIMS. NIMS. You can pull it off the internet on the FEMA website. I have 34 different certifications, maybe more than that even now, but at least 34 certifications from FEMA. It's like I've been to college at FEMA. Okay? I've talked about pistols versus active shooters with a rifle. Okay? I've talked about budgeting, emergency preparedness budgeting, friendly preparedness. Okay? Preparedness for lost in space. Preparedness for lost in space. Now this was a fun one. This was meant to be fun. Preparedness for lost in space. Some of the same principles that we would think of here on Earth are very effective in space. Preparedness for lost in space. Think about that. Think about that, guys. Okay? Preparedness is a journey. We talked about that here as well. Preparedness is a journey. It is a real journey. Okay? Yes, Harry Fodder is talking about a lack of work. Lack of work is terrible. Being out of work or having a lack of work is terrible because you can't make any money. If you can't make any money, you're not going to be able to feed yourself. If you can't feed yourself, you're screwed. Your family and yourself are screwed. Some people are working 2 or 3 jobs to keep food on the table. It's a sad day. It's a very sad day. Preparedness as a journey is one of my favorite ideas here that I came up with a long time ago. We had I put together a preparedness quiz. Could you survive ... A preparedness quiz. Preparedness steps. Preparedness steps. How about preparing for a major incident? Preparing for a major incident. That's also a big deal. We've talked about search and rescue. I haven't talked much about search and rescue lately, but we've talked about search and rescue here on the emergency management program. Maybe we need to do it again, because each one of us could be involved in search and rescue. We could be involved in search and rescue in our community or anywhere. Many people are majoring in search and rescue. There are people that do nothing but search and rescue. Sheriff offices around this country and around the world have been involved in nothing but search and rescue. They have search and rescue teams. Okay? One of the things I put together a long time ago, a scenario of a major 7.0 to 9.0 earthquake on the Wasatch. A scenario of a 7.0 to a 9.0 earthquake on the Wasatch Fault in Utah. With police officers and fire departments and paramedics, we talked about school emergency response tactical. Search, school, emergency response team, tactical. Okay? Shepherd and sheep. One of my favorite topics, shepherd and sheep. Steps to take when a tornado approaches. Steps to take when a tornado approaches. Storing your water in the winter. That's another great idea. Surviving a nuclear attack. Surviving an active shooter or terrorist. Nuclear station. The nuclear situation. A nation less prepared. The nuclear situation, a nation less prepared. The really big one regarding earthquakes. How about the three little pigs? Yes, the three little pigs. Emergency preparedness. The ultimate survival checklist. That's also something I've given you this past year. Go back through my programs. Whenever you see preparedness in the topic, guess what? That's something that you need to check out. The ultimate survival checklist. We've talked about that. How about the ultimate water storage guide? The ultimate water storage guide. Okay? Now I'm going to go through the next few very fast. How to combat Islamic extremism. How about how to combat Islamic extremism? Or the ultimate guide to getting prepared. The ultimate guide to getting prepared. One of the things I helped on many emergency operations centers all over the country is using departmental operations centers. Using the departmental operations centers. Why? Because those people are experts. The people that work in the emergency operations centers are experts. And you and I can use that information. We can contact them. They are willing to help us. They are willing to talk to us as groups. Using departmental operations centers. Think about it. If you live in a community and have a police or fire department that has an emergency operations center, you need to really think about talking to them and having them come out to your group, your church, or whatever, to talk about emergency preparedness. Using your emergency operations center. What parents should know when there is an emergency? What parents should know when there's an emergency? Also, one of my last ones that I have on my list here. Would my vehicle function when an EMP hits? Would my vehicle function when an electromagnetic pulse hits? That's a good question. That's a good question. All these things we need to talk about, and we have talked about over the years. That's why I put this list together. I have a book. The Surviving a Nuclear Attack is like 23 kilobytes long. That's how much information is just there that I have gathered over the years. Some of my topics involve like 483 kilobytes. Some of them are a lot less. But maybe I ought to put together a book going over everything we talked about tonight. At least I hope to talk about this tonight with you, to give you a little bit of information, maybe to spark a light within you to get you looking for information yourself. Think about it. There is a lot of information on the internet. A lot. And before Google or anybody, governmental agency takes it down, look for it. And copy it onto a file yourself. That way you have that. That way you have it. Don Patoga says, Ron, please do a book. Yes, I may have to think about that. I may have to seriously think about that. I have compiled this information over years, a lot of years. If you looked at my YouTube description of my program, you'll see what I've done over the years. I started with emergency preparedness back in the 70s and 80s. That tells you how long I've been doing this. Again, I was also my police department's emergency manager. So I've been doing this a long, long time. Helping police officers, helping fire department personnel, helping departments put together preparedness plans for themselves and for the community. Okay? We need to do this. Diane Kemmett says, we would buy it, Ron. We'd buy it. I'd have to really think about how it would be to pay for it. Because this information that I have, most emergency managers would kick me for selling it for a dime. They'd kick me for selling it for a dime. I'm not saying I would sell it for a dime, but I would not want to make it too expensive where somebody could not get it. That's me. That's me. Does anybody have any questions for me right now? I keep asking that, and sometimes I don't get answers. Sweet Polly Pure Red says, Don bought a roll of heavy-duty plastic and duct tape. Plastic and duct tape is a good idea. Plastic drop cloths can be put over windows and doors in case you have a nuclear explosion. That way you're keeping the nuclear radiation on the outside of your house. Okay? Drop cloths or tarps and duct tape can be very handy. You need to have 2 or 3 rolls of duct tape and probably 4 or 5 dozen, I can't say 5 dozen, one dozen drop cloths in your house can help protect you. A dozen drop cloths in your house can help protect you during a nuclear attack. Drop cloths can be used for anything. If you use one, replace it. If you use a drop cloth for whatever, replace it. That way it will never go bad on you. You won't find holes in it or anything else. Keep it. Keep it. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? Don Patoga says, when will the book be out, Ron? I'm going to have to seriously look at that. Harry Fodder says Faraday cages. Faraday cages is an easy thing to build. Just to give you an idea. Get one of those aluminum trash cans. Get an aluminum trash can. Then get yourself some heavy-duty cardboard. Sit the trash can on one part of that cardboard and draw a ring around the bottom of the trash can. Cut that out. cut another one out the same size for the top of it. Stick the bottom or one of the round cylinder or one of the round cardboard pieces in the bottom of the trash can. Put another cardboard piece in the inside part of the lid. Then make sure you find out the exact height of that trash can. Then you want to fit a piece of cardboard on the inside of that trash can. Do not use duct tape. Do not use duct tape. Duct tape can transmit electricity. Duct tape could transmit that electrical magnetic pulse that would render your Faraday cage that you're building inert and could fry all the electrical equipment inside your trash can. But again, put one of those round pieces in the bottom of the trash can. Then line the inside of that trash can from top to bottom with cardboard. You can use painter's tape or some other kind of tape to seal those pieces of cardboard together. That way there's no space for electricity to get through the cardboard. Make sure of that. Okay? Then when you even suspect there's going to be an EMP, put all of your electrical gadgets and toys inside that trash can. Again, inside the lid, you want a piece of cardboard. Make sure that cardboard inside the lid fits down over the top of the trash can, so there's no way electromagnetic pulses could get through that trash can into your electronic equipment. You made your own Faraday cage, and it's simple. It's fairly simple. Rob52 says an old microwave oven, he made one. You can do that with some microwave ovens, but not all of them. Be careful with those microwave ovens. Not all of them would work as a Faraday cage. Okay? You can buy Faraday cage material. Faraday bags, for example. You can buy those. Anyway, that's just one idea. Okay? Don Patoka says Gorilla Tape has no metal. I agree. Gorilla Tape would be fine. Okay, Songster Scriven says getting all getting done, some sleep, work tomorrow. Thanks, Ron. We've been here over 2 hours now. I'm sorry about that. God bless you all. I appreciate your diligence of being here, watching this program, and helping us give us each other ideas. Okay? Giving ideas to each other is helpful to all of us. Okay? I'm here for you. I'm here for you. As you've seen by my list of things and projects that I've worked on. I've taken this serious idea of preparedness to a great level. I want to take that to you as well, to help you survive whatever's going to happen. That's my goal. That's why I'm here. Brothers and sisters, I love you. I care about you. I care about you. I want you to survive. I want you to survive. I hope you have a good night and a good weekend. If anything else happens here tonight or tomorrow, we'll be back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. I take Saturdays off. But if something does happen, I will be back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Sunday morning, Sunday at 12 noon, we will come on the air with our Sunday school class, our weekly Sunday school class called Come Follow Me, the Savior Said. I would love to have you here with us for Come Follow Me on Sunday morning at 12 noon. God bless you all. I love you all very dearly. I hope you have a good night and a better tomorrow. We'll see you on the other side. Good night, everybody. Much love.